Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi disclosed that the country has no plans to hold talks with the United States. The U.S. current trade deficit has increased by $138.2 billion in the first quarter of 2025, marking a record high. In Panama, lawyers denounce human rights violations with arbitrary detentions and disappearances in Bocas del Toro. Hello, welcome from the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Stay with us. In an interview on Iran State TV, Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi disclosed that the country has no plans to hold talks with the United States, denying President Donald Trump's claim that negotiations were expected next week. Araghchi stated that Iran is still evaluating whether to renew talks with the U.S. serve its national interests, especially after 5 previous rounds were derailed by U.S. and Israeli strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities. He emphasized that the damage inflicted on the site was not little and that Iran's future diplomatic approach would depend on assessments of its nuclear program, which it maintains are for civilian use only. Araghchi further stated that before Israel's war on Iran, its nuclear proposal was based on 3 main pillars: the continuation of uranium enrichment inside Iran, a lifting of sanctions, and a commitment not to pursue nuclear weapons.
Iran is ready to consider diplomacy once again.
And in this context, according to Iranian Mer news agency, the damage inflicted on a unit at Iran's South Pars Phase 14 refinery has been reversed, with operations restored within 10 days after the site was targeted by an Israeli strike. The agency detailed that Iranian engineers managed to rebuild the damaged ground-based unit, restoring the refinery to full operational capacity. While the Israeli attack caused a fire and structural damage, national gas production remained uninterrupted due to the complex, resilient infrastructure. The refinery has now also resumed crude gas intake from offshore platforms and launched desalination operations at its 4th train. In Palestine, health authorities report the death of 2 babies due to malnutrition and lack of baby formula caused by the Israeli siege. The death occurred at the Nasser hospital in the southern city of Han Yunis. According to doctors, both children died due to lack of basic food and access to essential medical care. In this context, last week, medical sources in Gaza had warned of an impending health catastrophe, particularly for newborns and infants, due to the continued lack of availability of formula, milk, and essential medicines because of the Israeli blockade. Authorities also warned that there are other babies in the hospital in similar or worse conditions and have called for immediate international intervention to provide therapeutic, milk, and adequate nutrition for children. And Israeli occupation forces report that a group of settlers illegally entered the northern West Bank city of Nablus, where they raided the tomb of Joseph. The incursion bursted out clashes with Palestinian residents, since the monument is worshipped by Muslims, Christians, and Jews. According to the Israeli army, those responsible were evacuated from the site and they would be handed over to the Israeli police to continue with the corresponding investigation. Meanwhile, Palestinian authorities reiterated that the entry of Israeli citizens to the area was dangerous and was prohibited by law. And on Friday, Israeli occupation targeted areas north of the Litani River, implemented a fire belt tactic intended to cause widespread destruction across southern Lebanon. Authorities registered 1 woman killed and another 20 civilians injured. The strikes hit the Ali al-Tahrir Heights, with some explosions occurring dangerously close to civilian homes on the town's outskirts. Firefighting crews battled wildfires that broke out in nearby forested areas as a result of the bombardment. The violation marks another of thousands since the ceasefire took effect on November 27, 2024, amid continued Israeli incursions into Lebanese border villages, daily drone attacks, and violent air raids targeting Lebanese infrastructure. And in Yemen, citizens rallied to show their support for Palestine and to condemn Israeli aggressions in the region. Protesters mobilized under the slogan, "We will continue to support Gaza and holy sites, no matter the challenges." The mobilization also expressed gratitude for the success of the recent attacks by the Yemeni armed forces and the continuation of the naval and air blockade against Israel. The Yemeni people reaffirmed the full commitment to the leader of the revolution, Abdul Malik al-Houthi, to take the appropriate decisions in support of the Palestinian cause. Moving on to other news, in Moscow at the Library of Foreign Literature, the Roundtable BRICS Dialogue Diversified Cooperation as the Basis for a Multipolar World was held, coinciding with the anniversary of the founding of the Association of Countries on June 16, 2009. Our colleague, Oleg Jasinski, with the details.
La Mesa Redonda Diálogo BRICS.
The Round Table BRICS Dialogue. Diversified cooperation as the basis for a multipolar world brought together experts, diplomats, political scientists, and other representatives of world culture in Moscow. At the BRICS Plus Information and Cultural Media Center, the participants discussed the search for growth points for a multipolar world through cooperation in all areas.
Mediante la cooperación en todas las áreas.
Никто никому ничего не навязывает, все стараются.
No one imposes anything on anyone. Everyone strives to make the most of others and to see the untapped potential for cooperation with completely different countries and partners. We are delighted by the recent incorporation of Arab countries into the BRICS and the expansion of Africa's representation. We see a strong Eurasian component in the BRICS. Latin America, especially during the Brazilian presidency, is making its presence felt with great strength and conviction.
Los participantes señalaron que los BRICS
Participants noted that the BRICS are a platform for mutual enrichment. At the roots of the peoples lies the spirit of cooperation, which is the basis of this association. Based on mutual respect and understanding, BRICS projects allow everyone to take advantage of the best of others and discover their own potential in the multicultural and multiconfessional differences of the countries that comprise it. A multipolar world is being built, and in this process, we must get to know each other better, see each other more, communicate with each other. Not through the Western press or other media that distort words, thoughts, and reality, but directly with each other. Let us meet more often, communicate, be friends, study the history and cultures of others. And this will enrich us all together. And it will create a completely new world.
Cada año crece el interés por estudiar los idiomas de los BRICS.
Every year, interest in studying BRICS languages grows. Schools for Chinese, Portuguese, and Russian are opening. Students and business people from other countries in the association are enrolling in Russian courses. Cultural interaction between BRICS countries has already yielded excellent results. Brazil implemented the Russian Seasons Project, and Beijing and Moscow organized the Intercultural Years event. The choice of the venue for the round table, the Foreign Literature Library, was not coincidental. Spanish-speaking countries are a very interesting platform for promoting the Russian language. We are very interested in the culture of Spain and any other culture associated with the Spanish-speaking population. We would like to strengthen this interaction and continue to have interesting meetings with both Russian teachers and those who are trying to learn the language on their own. We have many interesting things to offer them.
La Cumbre de la Asociación en Río de Janeiro,
the Partnership Summit in Rio, which will be the first in which the BRICS partner countries will officially participate, aims to define a strategy to deepen cooperation for the coming years in all areas, from joint cultural and scientific projects to economic initiatives.
Hasta iniciativas económicas. Oleg Jasinski, teleSUR, Moscú.
We now have our first break coming up. Remember, you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We're going to be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. The U.S. current trade deficit has increased by $138.2 billion in the first quarter of 2025, marking a record high amid President Trump's trade war. The current amount measures the flow of goods, services, and investments into and out of the country, as well as its earnings and spending abroad. As a percentage of gross domestic product, the deficit increased by 1.8 percentage points to 6.0%, which is the highest level since the peak recorded in 2006. Experts and analysts agree that this 44% increase is a result of companies rushing to import goods before new tariffs are imposed, which are expected to continue. And on Friday, China clarified statements made by U.S. President Donald Trump regarding an alleged agreement with China on tariffs. Beijing has clarified that it will review and approve applications for the export of controlled items in accordance with laws and regulations. According to the Geneva and London meetings, the United States will eliminate a series of restrictive measures against China in response. Ministry of Commerce spokesman He Yadong particularly wanted to clarify statements about rare earths. He confirmed that a number of applications had been approved and noted that they will continue to strengthen the review and approval process for qualifying operations. And Venezuela and China celebrate the 54th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations. In this context, Caracas highlighted the strategic partnership among the nations. Through an official statement, the Venezuelan government emphasized how, thanks to the wise leadership of President Xi Jinping and President Nicolas Maduro, the friendship between their peoples has advanced towards a splendid stage and a solid strategic partnership at all times and under all circumstances, with a view to promoting shared development and mutual benefit, and reaffirmed that Venezuela and China will continue to move toward a future of shared prosperity, deepening their joint efforts based on mutual respect, complementarity, and reciprocity. And to celebrate the 45th anniversary of diplomatic relations, China and Ecuador signed a cooperation plan promoting the Belt and Road Initiative, strengthening their partnership as comprehensive strategic allies. The agreement was signed at the Great Hall of the People in Beijing, following a meeting between Chinese President Xi Jinping and his Ecuadorian counterpart Daniel Noboa. The agreement aims to strengthen connectivity, infrastructure, investment, sustainable trade, and technological cooperation between the two countries. This new bilateral agreement comes at a pivotal time for Ecuador as the country faces domestic economic challenges and seeks to expand its international presence while strengthening its relationship with one of its primary Asian trading partners. And on Friday, Indonesian President Prabowo Subianto met with Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim to discuss expanding their countries' bilateral cooperation. Malaysian Prime Minister was welcomed at the Halim Perdanakusuma Air Force Base in Jakarta by the Composite Honor Guard and a delegation from Indonesia, including the Minister of Investment, Chancellor and Governor of Jakarta. Ibrahim's official visit to Jakarta includes an important agenda which includes a meeting with leaders from both countries. These meetings between Jakarta and Kuala Lumpur aim to maintain dialogue and strengthen the long-standing ties between the two countries.
Dengan hangat sekali dan sangat senang sekali. Hormat, Anjatan!
In Colombia, the death toll following a landslide in Antioquia rose to 16. The disaster struck between Medellin and Bello on Tuesday due to heavy rains that caused a nearby creek to overflow. Authorities added that at least 15 people remain missing and that search and rescue efforts continue. Nearly 1,000 people have been evacuated from the surrounding areas as a preventive measure. The mayor of Bello, Lorena Gonzalez, warned about the instability of the terrain and emphasized the danger faced by rescue workers operating in extreme adverse conditions. We now have our second break coming up. Before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English, there you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage, and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final break, don't go away. Welcome back. Panamanian lawyers continue to denounce the human rights violations in Bocas del Toro, which include arbitrary detentions and forced disappearances. The serious situation in northwestern province has left at least 4 people, namely demonstrators Venero Guerra Palacio, Mercedes Jimenez, Arcedes Guerra, and Santiago Lorenzo Santo, missing. In addition, the Alliance of Volunteer Lawyers has denounced the arbitrary arrest of more than 280 people under the emergency decree signed by President José Raúl Mulino. Furthermore, they warned the detentions executed without judicial orders, transfers, or notifications are violating human rights as detainees account for cases of torture. And Panama Canal Affairs Minister José Ramón Icaza reiterated that neither the Treaty of Neutrality nor the organic law allow free transit of ships. The statements come in response to U.S. demands for free passage for its warships and support vessels. Despite pressure from high-ranking U.S. officials, Panama maintains its position of strictly complying with its legal framework and seeking compensation mechanisms. During the visit of the head of the Pentagon in April, a joint declaration was signed reaffirming Panama's right to expedited passage, but always within the framework of current legislation. Panama stresses that the canal will continue to be a strategic sovereign landmark with clear rules that benefit all nations that use it. Meanwhile, in Haiti, amid a major political and institutional crisis, former President Claude Joseph was questioned for his alleged involvement in the assassination of former President Jovenel Moïse. The hearing was held at the Court of Appeal in Port-au-Prince as part of an investigation that has yet to be finally resolved. The summons was issued by examining magistrate Walter Voltaire, who has appointed to several public figures as part of a complex and delicate plot. Meanwhile, Claude Joseph denounced that the process is politically motivated, although he reiterated that he had collaborated with the justice systems from the beginning. The case is taking place amid growing social pressure to clarify a crime that shocked the country and revealed deep fractures in the Haitian state. And in El Salvador, a report revealed that nearly 40 journalists have left the country due to pressure, threats, and fear of ending up in jail for criticizing the government of Nayib Bukele. Our correspondent Roberto Hugo Presa with the details.
Los programas independientes de opinión van desapareciendo.
Independent opinion programs are disappearing. Julio Villagrán had to leave a traditional channel to set up his digital project. He says that independent journalism is going through difficult times and that there is a lot of fear of expressing opinions. Independent journalism is complicated, and practicing it is complicated also because of the difficulty we have with the people who shape opinion in the country at this time. We are experiencing a quite unusual situation in which people are very afraid to express themselves.
Un informe de la Asociación de Periodistas Salvadoreños.
A report by the Association of Salvadoran Journalists reveals that in recent months, about 40 journalists have left the country due to threats, a reality that concerns the profession.
Hay amenazas muy reales para la prensa que se atreva a seguir haciendo.
There are very real threats to the press that dares to continue investigating and dares to continue exposing the corrupt and criminal face of the Bukele government. That is why the press is now being persecuted, and many journalists have had to leave the country to avoid any harm to their physical integrity.
Cualquier tipo de daño a su integridad física.
En las últimas semanas, críticos como los abogados.
In recent weeks, critics such as lawyers Ruth Lopez of the Cristosal Foundation and Enrique Anea, an opponent of the president re-election, were arrested on charges of illicit enrichment and money laundering. However, many believe that the idea is to silence their voices. The director of humanitarian legal assistance left the country for fear of suffering the same fate.
La directora del Socorro Jurídico Humanitario abandonó el país por temor a correr la misma suerte.
Y si me capturan, me detienen de manera ilegal y arbitraria.
And if they capture me, detain me illegally and arbitrarily, as they already do for sport in the country, I have no doubt that I would die within a few days in the prison system. So I have found myself obliged to leave and hope that one day I will be able to return to my country when the rule of law is restored.
Se restablezca el Estado de Derecho.
La más reciente encuesta del Instituto Universitario de Opinión.
The latest survey by the University Institute of Opinion at the Central American University shows that 58% of Salvadorans fear negative consequences for criticizing the government.
Sí, claro, es un sentimiento normal, ¿verdad?
Yes, of course, it's a normal feeling, right? In every human being. The difference is whether or not you let fear enslave you. It's not the first time we've been persecuted, is it? For the fight for human rights.
Por la lucha relativa a los derechos humanos.
En las últimas semanas, las movilizaciones de calle han disminuido.
In recent weeks, street protests have decreased and the power to mobilize people has also declined in popular demonstrations. Many believe that this is due to fear of the regime of exception being applied.
Roberto Hugo Presa, teleSUR, El Salvador.
On Thursday, Colombian President Gustavo Petro announced a millionaire investment towards guaranteeing steady electric service for indigenous communities. Precisely, Petro unveiled that close to $13 million will be allocated to provide power for 59 YU communities in the municipality of Manaure, department of La Guajira, in the north of the country. The project, which includes the financing of 2 energy projects, aimed at expanding service coverage in remote rural areas historically affected by a lack of access to basic services, will be implemented by the Institute for the Planning and Promotion of Energy Solutions for Non-Interconnected Areas with the support of the Ministry of Mines and Energy. We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.